Welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, a channel dedicated to helping you live a richer, more fulfilling life, both inside and out. Today, we're diving into a profound concept from Buddhist wisdom, the idea that you are already enough, exactly as you are. Does that sound too good to be true? Stick with me, especially if you're over 40, and I think this message might truly change everything for you. So, before we delve deeper, if you appreciate content that helps you find peace and purpose, please consider subscribing to Wisdom and Wealth. It's a simple way to support our work, and you'll get notified of future videos designed to help you thrive. We spend so much of our lives chasing approval, comparing ourselves to others, and feeling like we're never quite good enough. Our culture constantly bombards us with messages about what we should be, what we should achieve, and how we should look. Buddhist wisdom offers a powerful alternative. It suggests that self-esteem doesn't come from external validation or achieving more. It comes from stopping the internal fight with yourself. In this video, you'll learn how to let go of self-criticism, embrace compassion, and discover a deep, unshakable peace that no one can take away. You're not more valuable because of your successes, and you're not less valuable because of your failures. Your worth is already inherent. It's always been there. The challenge is that we've forgotten how to see it. We've been taught to measure our worth by standards that are often completely out of our control. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need to be confident and secure, yet simultaneously bombards us with messages that make us question our worth. From a young age, we're taught that if we do things right, if we succeed, if we meet expectations, then we'll be loved, accepted, and valued. Conversely, if we fail or fall short, our sense of worth seems to crumble. Consequently, we grow up tied to other people's approval, seeking validation and success in how we look and what others think of us. With social media, it's easy to fall into the comparison trap, scrolling, comparing, and preparing, unconsciously starting to feel inadequate. But what happens when that validation doesn't come? Who are you when you stop measuring yourself against others? Buddhism offers a different perspective. It doesn't tell you to build self-esteem through achievements or the opinions of others. It invites you to look within and discover a value that isn't tied to anything external. We tell ourselves, I'll be enough when I reach this goal, or I'll be worthy when I look a certain way, or when people finally recognize me. But those things are unstable. One day, someone compliments you, and you feel great. The next, someone criticizes you, and your confidence crashes. It's a never-ending cycle that keeps us stuck in self-doubt. It's this very journey, the journey of self-discovery and inner peace, that we explore here at Wisdom and Wealth. If you find this content valuable, please hit that like button. It helps us reach a wider audience. Buddhism asks a simple yet profound question. If no one was watching you, if there were no comparisons, no social media, no external expectations, would you still feel like you weren't enough? That question alone can change everything, pushing you to look beyond appearances and inviting you to stop defining yourself by what you have or achieve. The real problem isn't a lack of self-esteem but how we've learned to value ourselves. Instead of recognizing ourselves as already whole, we've fallen into the trap of thinking we have to be more, do more, and prove more. Buddhism reminds us that true peace doesn't come from trying to fit in or stand out but from deeply accepting who you already are. This doesn't mean giving up on growth or settling for less. It means understanding that your worth isn't up for debate. It's not something you have to earn. From birth, society shapes us, teaching what's right, desirable, and valuable. Those external voices become our inner voice. We end up talking to ourselves in ways we wouldn't talk to a friend, being hard on ourselves, criticizing, and punishing ourselves for not being perfect. Buddhism offers a different approach. Observe those thoughts without becoming them, understanding that the voice telling you you're not good enough isn't telling the truth but repeating old stories. These stories don't define you. You're not your insecurities, mistakes, or doubts. You are something deeper. This isn't about motivational quotes or pretending everything is fine, it's about getting to the root of the problem. When your self-worth depends on comparisons and external approval, it's fragile. One moment you feel great, the next a small failure or criticism makes you question everything. But when you see yourself through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, you realize your worth is unshakable. It's not tied to anyone else's opinion, and it doesn't vanish because you made a mistake. It's always there. This journey isn't about quick fixes or magic formulas, it's about unlearning old patterns and reconnecting with a piece already inside you. You don't need to become someone else or chase impossible standards, you need to start seeing yourself through the eyes of compassion, acceptance, and authenticity. If you are new to Wisdom and Wealth, be sure to subscribe before you forget. Most people try to build self-esteem by strengthening their identity, convincing themselves they're valuable, special, or better. Maybe you've done this, proving yourself through achievements, appearances, or recognition. It's how we've been taught, but Buddhism points out something important. The problem isn't that we don't believe we're good enough but that we're holding too tightly to an idea of who we think we're supposed to be. From childhood, we're handed labels: smart, successful, shy, too much, not enough. We carry these labels and they become how we define ourselves. We get attached to them, whether they're positive or negative. If someone tells you you're good at something, you hold on to that, feeling proud. If someone questions or criticizes you, it hurts, shaking the identity you've worked so hard to build. We end up living in constant tension, trying to hold on to the good labels and push away the bad ones. But what if we aren't those labels at all? What if we've mistaken our passing thoughts, feelings, and experiences for who we are? Buddhism invites us to look closely at this. Who are you when all those labels and stories fall away? If one day you feel confident and the next you feel unsure, which one is the real you? If your emotions are always changing, if your sense of self shifts depending on the situation, then maybe the self you're trying to protect is just a collection of thoughts and feelings that come and go. Here's the key: if your sense of self is unstable, then your self-esteem will be unstable too. Building your worth on top of a constantly changing identity is like building a house on shifting sand. No matter how solid it feels one day, it can fall apart the next. Buddhism offers a different approach. Instead of getting caught up in who you think you are or should be, it teaches you to let go of that rigid idea of self and release the need to constantly define yourself. When you loosen your grip on that identity, something surprising happens. The fear of not being enough starts to disappear. You stop feeling like you have to prove anything to anyone. You start experiencing a deep sense of freedom. This doesn't mean you stop growing or improving. It means you grow because it's natural, because you're curious, because you enjoy learning and experiencing life without the pressure to measure up. In conclusion, if you're enjoying the wisdom shared on Wisdom and Wealth, why not share this video with a friend or family member who might benefit from it? The Buddhist view encourages a more flexible understanding of who we are. You're not just your achievements or mistakes, you're not even the opinions other people have about you. You are a living, breathing, ever-changing experience. When you accept this, you stop clinging to an ideal image of yourself, stop trying to fit into someone else's expectations, and give yourself permission to just be. Here's where real peace begins. When you no longer define yourself by rigid labels, the pressure lifts. You no longer need to be enough by anyone's standards, you no longer have to be perfect. You can relax into who you are in this moment, knowing that's all you ever need to be. This shift changes how you speak to yourself, softening your inner dialogue, becoming less critical, less demanding, and more understanding. You stop measuring your worth by how productive you are or how others see you, you simply exist, and that's enough. When you stop trying to control how you're seen and instead focus on how you experience yourself, life gets lighter, you feel more grounded, and your sense of worth no longer depends on external approval. This perspective isn't something you grasp once and then it's done, it's a practice. You'll forget, falling back into old habits of judging yourself. But each time you remember, each time you let go of that need to define yourself, you'll feel freer, and that freedom will grow. Understanding these ideas about the self is a powerful first step, but real change happens through practice. The way we think and feel about ourselves are habits built over years, and like any habit, they can be unlearned and replaced with something healthier and kinder. That's where Buddhist practice comes in. It's not just philosophy, it's something you live, something you do daily in small, meaningful ways. Let's start with meditation, not the image of someone sitting perfectly still on a mountaintop, but sitting quietly wherever you are and learning to pay attention to what's happening inside you without judgment. Meditation gives you space, helping you see your thoughts for what they are, just thoughts. You notice them rise, watch them fall, and find something deeper in between those moments, something that doesn't come and go like those thoughts do. For example, a thought pops up, "I'm not good enough." Instead of getting caught in it, meditation teaches you to take a step back. You see the thought, notice how it makes you feel, but you don't become it, don't let it run the show. You realize it's just a thought, one that you don't have to believe. Another practice is mindfulness, being present. So much of our anxiety and self-judgment comes from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. We replay conversations and worry about how things will turn out. Mindfulness brings your attention to this moment, right here, right now. When you're present, those critical voices in your head start to lose their power because you're not feeding them. You're focused on what's real, your breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the sounds around you. It seems simple, but it changes everything. Then there's compassion, not just for others but for yourself. This is where many struggle, thinking compassion means being weak or making excuses. Compassion, real compassion, is seeing that you're human, learning, and not perfect, and that's okay. If you're finding value in these concepts from Wisdom and Wealth, be sure to subscribe to our channel and stay on the path. Imagine treating a struggling friend. You wouldn't tear them down or tell them they're a failure, you'd offer kindness, patience, and encouragement. Why wouldn't you do the same for yourself? One of the most powerful practices in Buddhism is metta bhavana, or loving-kindness meditation. You start by offering kindness to yourself, quietly saying phrases like, "May I be happy, may I be safe, may I live with ease." At first, it might feel strange, even resistant, but the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you find that your inner voice softens, you stop being your own worst critic, and start becoming your own ally. Gratitude is another simple but life-changing practice. We often focus on what's missing, what we're not doing right, what we don't have, how we wish we were different. But what if you paused and noticed what's already good? Gratitude shifts your focus, reminding you of your strengths, efforts, and the things in your life that bring joy, no matter how small. When you're grateful, your inner world becomes less about lack and more about abundance, creating a solid foundation for healthy self-esteem. Finally, there's the practice of letting go, detachment. We often try to control how others see us or hold on to an idealized version of ourselves. But the more we cling, the heavier life feels. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you release the need to control everything, stop trying to force things, and trust that you're enough, even without the perfect image or outcome. There's freedom in that. All these practices, meditation, mindfulness, compassion, gratitude, and letting go, aren't things you do once and check off a list, they're daily habits, small moments of awareness, small acts of kindness toward yourself. Over time, they add up, and you start to feel and live differently, building a relationship with yourself that's grounded in acceptance, patience, and trust. When you do this, self-esteem isn't something you chase, it grows naturally, quietly, like a tree rooted deep in the earth. Most have no problem showing compassion to others. If a friend is struggling, we offer comfort. If someone we care about makes a mistake, we tell them it's okay, that they're only human. But when it comes to ourselves, it's a different story. We're often harsher, more demanding, less forgiving, holding ourselves to impossible standards, and punishing ourselves with criticism and guilt when we fall short. Buddhism teaches that this lack of compassion towards ourselves is one of the deepest sources of suffering. The mind thinks it's being helpful by pointing out everything that's wrong, keeping us in line, but the truth is, when we're caught in constant self-judgment, we close the door to growth, getting stuck in shame and fear, places where we don't thrive. Compassion is not about excusing our mistakes or avoiding responsibility, it's about meeting ourselves where we are with understanding and kindness. It's saying, yes, I made a mistake, but that doesn't make me unworthy, it makes me human. There's a huge difference between growth that comes from shame and growth that comes from compassion. Shame says, I'm not enough, while compassion says, I'm learning. Imagine someone you love is having a hard time, maybe they failed at something important. You wouldn't tell them they're useless or that they'll never get it right, you'd listen, remind them of their strengths, and stay by their side until they found their footing again. That's what compassion looks like, and that's what we need to offer ourselves. In Buddhism, there's a practice called metta, or loving kindness, that helps us develop this quality. You sit quietly and offer well wishes, first to yourself, then to others, saying, may I be happy, may I be safe, may I be free from suffering. At first, it can feel uncomfortable, we're so used to ignoring our own needs that being kind to ourselves feels unnatural, but over time, something shifts, we begin to soften, we begin to heal. Self-compassion doesn't mean we stop aiming to do better, it means we stop tearing ourselves apart in the process. It gives us the strength to keep going, not because we feel broken, but because we understand we're worth the effort. It's the fuel for true self-acceptance, which doesn't mean settling, but embracing ourselves fully, including the messy parts. Something else important is that compassion connects us to others. Buddhism teaches that suffering is universal. Every person you meet is carrying their own invisible weight. When we realize we're not alone in our struggles, something powerful happens. We stop feeling isolated, stop believing we're the only ones who feel afraid or insecure. Compassion opens the door to connection, to community, and to a deeper sense of belonging. Self-acceptance doesn't come from reaching some perfect version of yourself, but from embracing who you are right now, in this moment. It's understanding that you can be a work in progress and still be enough. You can have areas you want to grow in and still deserve kindness. You can be healing and still be whole. The practice of compassion toward yourself and others creates space for that truth to take root. Once it does, you begin to experience a different kind of peace, one that doesn't depend on external approval, one that isn't shaken by mistakes or setbacks. It's peace that comes from knowing you are already enough. That critical voice inside your head, we all have it. The one that points out every flaw, replays every mistake, and tells you you're not good enough. Maybe it whispers, maybe it shouts, but either way, it drains you. Many of us have listened to it for so long that it's hard to imagine life without it. Buddhism doesn't try to silence that voice by force, instead, it teaches us to change how we relate to it. Rather than fighting self-criticism, we learn to step back, observe it, and choose not to let it control us. This is where meditation becomes such a powerful tool, not because it makes the thoughts disappear, but because it helps you see them for what they really are, just thoughts. Not facts, not truths, just mental events passing through your mind, like clouds drifting across the sky. Imagine sitting quietly, focusing on your breath. A thought pops up, I'm failing. You notice it, take a breath, and instead of believing it or getting caught in it, you simply watch it float by. You don't have to fix it, argue with it, or judge it. You just let it go. Over time, this practice creates space inside you, space where you are no longer trapped by self-judgment. You become the observer, not the prisoner. Mindfulness, or present moment awareness, deepens this freedom. Self-criticism often comes from getting stuck in the past or worrying about the future. We replay the things we said wrong and dread what might go wrong tomorrow. Mindfulness brings you back here to what's happening right now, and right now you are okay, breathing, and alive, and that's enough. Even a simple mindfulness practice, like paying attention to the sensation of your feet on the floor or the rhythm of your breath, can shift your focus. It grounds you and quiets the noise, and the more you do it, the more you realize you don't have to believe everything your mind tells you. You have a choice. One powerful technique is compassionate questioning. When you catch yourself in self-criticism, gently ask, is this true? Often, we find that these harsh judgments aren't based on reality. They're old stories, fears, and habitual ways of thinking that no longer serve us. You can even ask, would I say this to someone I love? If the answer is no, then it's time to offer yourself a kinder thought. Another helpful practice is using compassionate phrases or mantras. They're like reminders that bring you back to the truth. Simple phrases like, I am learning, or I am doing my best, can soften the edges of harsh self-talk. They don't have to be dramatic or grand, just honest and kind. Remember that this isn't about getting rid of self-criticism forever. That's not realistic. The goal is to change your relationship with it, to recognize it when it shows up, to greet it with understanding, and to make a different choice. You can say, I see you, I know where you come from, but I don't have to believe you today. The more you practice meditation and mindfulness, the easier it becomes to find that space between hearing the critical thought and reacting to it. In that space, there's peace, power, and freedom. When you stop letting self-criticism run your life, something shifts inside you. You become more open, more patient, and begin to experience yourself differently, not as someone who's broken or lacking, but as someone who's whole, even with imperfections. Sometimes ideas sound good in theory, but we need proof they work in real life. We need stories of people who were struggling just like us, who found a way to heal and transform through practice. Buddhist teachings are ancient, but they're just as relevant today. The stories you're about to hear aren't fairy tales of instant enlightenment. They're real human experiences of people who slowly and steadily changed their relationship with themselves, often in small but powerful ways. Let's begin with the story of Thich Nhat Hanh. He's one of the most respected Buddhist teachers of our time, but he didn't start his life as a peaceful master living in a monastery. He was a young monk in Vietnam during a time of war and devastation. He witnessed unimaginable suffering, violence, loss, and pain. He could have easily been consumed by anger or despair, but instead, he turned to mindfulness and compassion as his refuge. He practiced being fully present, even amidst chaos, and cultivated compassion, not just for others but for himself. Through that practice, he found an inner peace that no war could destroy, and he dedicated his life to teaching others how to find that same peace within themselves. His life reminds us that even in the worst circumstances, we can choose how we respond. We can choose healing over hatred and peace over fear. Then, there's the story of Pema Chodron. Long before she became a Buddhist nun and author, she was a woman going through a painful divorce, feeling lost and broken. Her world had collapsed, leaving her with a deep sense of failure and unworthiness. Instead of running away from her pain, she turned toward it. She started meditating and studying Buddhist teachings on compassion and non-attachment. Little by little, she realized she didn't have to be perfect to be at peace. She could be flawed, heartbroken, messy, and still be whole. Pema's teachings reach millions of people today because she speaks from that raw, lived experience. She teaches that the path to freedom doesn't start with fixing yourself, it starts with accepting yourself exactly as you are. But this isn't just about well-known teachers. Ordinary people, people like you and me, are finding transformation through Buddhist practice every day. There's the story of a young man who grew up believing he wasn't good enough. His childhood was marked by criticism. No matter how hard he tried, it was never enough for his parents. As he grew older, that critical voice followed him everywhere, in his career, relationships, and even in how he talked to himself. One day, out of sheer exhaustion, he stumbled upon a meditation class. At first, he thought it was silly, but he kept showing up, 10 minutes a day, then 15. Slowly, he learned to sit with his thoughts without reacting to them, and for the first time, he realized, I am not these thoughts. They don't control me. That space he found during meditation expanded into his daily life. He became kinder to himself and stopped measuring his worth by achievements. Today, he says he's still learning and growing, but he finally feels free from the weight of not being enough. Then, there's the woman who spent years feeling trapped by her appearance. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw what she thought was wrong. She chased diets, beauty treatments, and anything that promised to make her feel worthy, but nothing ever did. It wasn't until she attended a Buddhist retreat that things shifted. She was introduced to loving-kindness meditation and asked to send kind wishes to herself. It felt strange at first. She had spent so long criticizing herself that kindness felt uncomfortable, but she stayed with it. Each morning, she whispered, "May I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I accept myself." It took time, months, but slowly, she noticed the harshness fading. She began to appreciate her body, not for how it looked, but for what it allowed her to do. She ran with her kids in the park, laughed with friends, and felt strong and alive. In that acceptance, she found a beauty she had never seen before. These stories may seem different, but they share the same heart. They are stories of people turning inward, not to find something wrong, but to find something true. Through Buddhist practices like meditation, mindfulness, and compassion, they each learn to stop fighting with themselves. They learn to soften and let go. In that letting go, they found peace. Remember, their journeys weren't perfect. They had days when they felt stuck and doubted themselves, but that's okay. The Buddhist path isn't about perfection, it's about showing up again and again with patience and kindness, even when it's hard. Their stories remind us that change is possible. Healing doesn't happen in an instant, but it does happen with small steps, steady practice, and compassion. You don't need to become someone else to find peace, you just need to be willing to meet yourself where you are right now. And finally, we've come a long way together. But if there's one truth that threads through it all, it's this: what's meant for you will come, and you don't need to force it. We live in a world that teaches us to chase, push harder, and control every outcome, as if our happiness depends on it. But what we've explored here is something far more powerful: the art of letting go. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring, give up on your dreams, or stop taking action. It means you stop clinging to how things have to be. You trust that life, in its own time and way, will bring you exactly what you need. When you start practicing this trust, something shifts inside you. You worry less about how you compare to others and stop measuring your value by things that can change from one moment to the next. You begin to understand that your worth was never something to earn, it's something you carry with you always. You were enough the whole time, you just needed to remember. This is the heart of detachment, not turning away from life, but turning toward it with open hands, offering your efforts, love, and presence without demanding anything in return. You show up, do your part, and then let go of the outcome. In that letting go, there's space for peace, joy, and life to surprise you in ways you never expected. Now, living this way isn't something you figure out overnight, it's a practice. There will be days when the old habits of control and comparison show up again, but that's okay, you're human. What matters is that each time you notice, you bring yourself back to the present moment, trust, and compassion for yourself and others. If you take just one thing away from this journey, let it be this: you don't have to chase your worth, you already are enough, right here, right now. When you start living from that truth, life begins to meet you in ways you never imagined. Keep going, keep practicing, be gentle with yourself along the way. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing to Wisdom and Wealth. We have so much more to explore together, more teachings, practices, and stories that can bring peace and clarity to your life. I'd love to hear from you. What part of today's video spoke to you the most? Is there something you're ready to let go of? Share it in the comments below, and let's support each other in this process, because we're all walking this path together. Thank you for being here and taking this time for yourself.